You know, for as long as we've been around, people have been on this quest to understand the ultimate truth of our existence. And that search, it seems to follow two different paths. One is like an intellectual map, right? It's charted with symbols and ancient, secret teachings. But the other path, that's the living treasure, an actual person who embodies all those teachings. And in this explainer, we're going to explore a truly incredible place where those two paths cross.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that really gets to the heart of all this. What if the most profound, most hidden esoteric theories weren't just abstract ideas collecting dust in old books? What if you could actually find a person whose entire life was a living, breathing demonstration of these cosmic laws?
So, to guide us on this, we've got two central figures. On one side, we have our theorist, Manly P. Hall. His book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, is just this monumental effort to document all of humanity's hidden wisdom. And then on the other side, we have the phenomenon, Sai Baba of Shirdi, a spiritual master whose life was just filled with these incredible events that seem to perfectly mirror Hall's theories. So we've got the map and we've got the treasure. Let's see how they line up.
All right, our first stop is the very foundation of this kind of knowledge, this whole concept of initiation. It's like a blueprint for spiritual transformation that was used by ancient schools and, as we're about to see, by modern masters too.
So Manly P. Hall, he talks all about these ancient institutions known as the mysteries. You can think of the secret schools of Eleusis or the cult of Mithras. Now these weren't just temples, they were like universities for the soul. They operated behind this veil of secrecy because their teachings were considered so powerful. And their main goal, their whole purpose, was to teach that a human being isn't just a physical body, but an immortal spirit that's kind of trapped in matter. And their job was to set that spirit free.
Now, to understand the other side of this equation, we really need to get this term, Sat Purusha. It's a Sanskrit word, and it means perfect master, someone who has totally gone beyond their ego and just lives as a pure manifestation of divine truth. This is the kind of title that's given to figures like Sai Baba.
And this is where the connection just clicks. The goal of those ancient mysteries was to guide a person through a symbolic death and rebirth, to free the soul. Well, the role of a Satpurusha was to guide his followers through a very real, very personal process of dissolving their ego to awaken their spiritual nature. It's the exact same ancient blueprint for transformation, just being used in a different time. Take the element of fire, for example. Ancient initiation rites like the ones from Mithras were all centered on sacred flames as symbols of divinity and purification. Well, in the town of Shirdi, Sai Baba kept a duni, a sacred fire that has literally been burning continuously for over 100 years. And this wasn't just a symbol. This was a living furnace where followers believed their negative karma, their baggage, was just consumed. And from its ashes, which they called udi, came healing that just defied all explanation. All right, so let's build on that. We're going to shift from the structure of initiation to the actual laws of the cosmos. We're going to look at Hermetic philosophy and how its biggest ideas seem to pop up as actual miracles in Sai Baba's life. You know, the cornerstone of all Hermetic thought is this ancient phrase, as above, so below. Basically, it means the universe, the big picture, the macrocosm, is perfectly reflected in each one of us, the microcosm. It's like a hologram where every tiny little piece contains the image of the whole thing. And according to Hall, really getting this principle is the key to unlocking our own divine potential. And here is the living proof of that very principle. The Sanskrit term antuyami describes this quality of being the inner ruler, an all-knowing consciousness that lives in the heart of every single being. It's the practical, living, breathing version of that theoretical universal mind that Hermeticism is always talking about. And what's so wild is how this slide shows this concept in action. I mean, picture this. A visitor is standing there silently judging Sai Baba in his own head for always asking for donations. And before the guy can even say a single word, Baba just turns to him and answers his unspoken thought, explaining that he was taking on the man's karmic debts, his punya, not his money. I mean, that's just a stunning real-time demonstration of antaryami, that all-knowing quality. Now, another huge Hermetic idea is alchemy. And Hall makes it super clear that real alchemy was never about turning metal into gold. No, the lead was the ignorant human ego, and the gold was the enlightened soul. So the whole alchemical process was a spiritual one, the transformation of the self. But then, once again, the theory just becomes astonishingly real. There's a famous story where the shopkeepers in Shirdi refuse to sell Sai Baba oil for his lamps. So what does he do? He just fills them with water and lights them. and these lamps burned brightly all night long on water. This wasn't just spiritual alchemy. This was a literal physical transmutation of elements. It was a demonstration of absolute mastery over the very substance of reality.
And that miracle is the perfect jumping-off point for our next section, which is all about this idea, the esoteric theory of nature spirits and Sai Baba's incredible command over the physical world.
So there's this amazing historical figure, the medieval alchemist Paracelsus, who was a total revolutionary for his time. He proposed that the 4 classic elements were actually inhabited by conscious spirits: undines in water, salamanders in fire, gnomes in earth, and sylphs in air. And he argued that a true master had to learn to command these forces, not by force, but by first purifying those same elements inside themselves.
So Hall's map, which pulls from Paracelsus, says a master can command the undines, the spirits of water. And in Sai Baba's life, we see this theory made real when he didn't just move water or control it, he changed its fundamental nature into oil. That demonstrates an authority that just goes way beyond our known physical laws.
Now when it comes to fire, the theory says that to command the salamanders, you have to be totally pure and have zero fear. Well, the living proof is one of the most powerful stories about Sai Baba. To save a child who was falling into a furnace miles away, he thrust his own hand right into his sacred Duni fire. His arm took the burn, which saved the child, but his hand was completely unharmed. It showed that fire had no power over him. And what about earth? The esoteric map says that gnomes are the guardians of the earth's healing powers. The treasure we find is in Sai Baba's Udi. This sacred ash, a product of wood from the earth transformed by fire, was his universal medicine. He gave it to his followers to cure everything from a simple cold to life-threatening diseases, channeling the elemental power of earth itself.
So where does all this leave us? We've traced the theories, we've witnessed the living examples. Now let's bring it all together and just see how perfectly this ancient map really does align with its living treasure.
This slide, honestly, it just brings it all home. The alchemist's hunt for the philosopher's stone, it finds its answer in the Satpurusha, the master who transforms consciousness. The abstract universal mind, it becomes the tangible reality of Antaryami. The symbolic sacred fire is the living Duni. The legendary panacea, that universal cure, is the sacred ash, Udi. The ancient rite of initiation lives on as the path of discipleship, and the concept of sacrifice is mirrored in the offering of dakshina. The parallels are they're staggering.
So here's the bottom line. The vast, complex wisdom that Manly P. Hall documented is not just a collection of historical fun facts. In the life of a master like Sai Baba of Shirdi, we get to see that ancient map come to life. The theory becomes a breathing reality. And that matters because it suggests these truths aren't just locked in the past. They are a living potential inside the human experience right now.
And, maybe it's best to let Sai Baba himself have the final word on all of this. He once said, "People search for God in books, but they only find illusion." Now that's not a knock on knowledge. It's just a profound reminder that a map, no matter how perfect it is not the destination. True understanding requires you to actually take the journey.
And all of this leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If this incredible synthesis between Hall's map and Sai Baba's treasure is real, it suggests these universal truths are timeless. They're always present, which really makes you wonder, what other ancient maps are out there just waiting for us to find the living treasures they point to?